Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. It is a Sabbath day. I hope you all are having a blessed Sabbath, and you're at home, at rest, like you should be, meditating on the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. The title of today's lesson is The Javelin. The Javelin. Seed mixing, marrying strange women. Once again, today's title, today's lesson is entitled The Javelin. Seed mixing, marrying strange women. All right. Once again, brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws. Don't turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. We are to walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. We're not to stray to the left or to the right. And we're not allowed to let anyone come after the Most High and deviate from his word or teach us anything that is contrary to his word. No one trumps the words of the Most High, and I mean absolutely no one. All right, now let's begin this lesson at Deuteronomy chapter 7. We will be reading the entire chapter of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 7. And we will read this to get a clear understanding pertaining to strange women and dealing with them. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 1 reads, When Yah thy strong one shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and hast cast out the many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thee, or thou. Verse 2. And when Yah thy strong one shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant, no agreements with them, nor show mercy unto them. So once we get into this land, we were not to make any covenants with the Canaanites, and we were not to show mercy to them. We were to utterly destroy them. We were to kill them. That was our instruction. Verse 3, Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. We were not to marry them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his sons. We were not allowed to have our daughters marry the men of strangers or the sons of strangers. Nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy sons. We were not allowed to have our sons marry the daughters of strangers. Verse 4, For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods, idols. So will the anger of Yah be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. So, we were instructed before we got into the land of Canaan that number one, once we got there, we were not to marry those Canaanites at all, because they were doing all manner of abominable things in the land. That's number one. Should we allow our daughters, our sons, to marry their daughters would cause our sons to turn their back on the Most High. And our sons will therefore start following after the gods or the idols of their wives. And vice versa. If our daughters were to marry the sons of the heathen, then our daughters will also follow after her husband's gods, idols, and customs. And all of these things would cause the Most High to be angry with us, and his anger would be kindled against us, and he would destroy us for doing this. Hope you're paying attention to those two verses specifically. Verse 5. But thus shall you deal with them. You shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. So, all the graven images that you may have, and you know the many idols of these nations, if you have these graven images around your necks, in your houses, whether it be in statue form, statues of gold, silver, wood, etc., you're to burn it. Verse 6, For thou art an holy people unto Yah thy strong one. Yah thy strong one hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. singular. He's one. Above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So, the house of Israel is a special people, a peculiar people, a specific bloodline that's above all the nations of the earth. I just responded to a question from a gentleman where he was quoting some stuff out of Galatians that everyone is the same in the spirit if you follow this Christian idol. Look, the house of Israel is a separate people above all people on the face of the earth. We are an entirely different bloodline. Our rules, statutes, judgments, and precepts is unique to any other nation. And the Most High only knows the house of Israel. There is no such thing as everyone's on the same slate. No such thing. The house of Israel is above all nations on the face of the earth. So says the Most High. And that is a specific bloodline of people. That's not everyone. I don't care what you believe. Verse 7. Yah did not set his love upon you, nor chose you, because ye were more in number than anyone. For ye were the fewest of all people. But because Yah loved you. You can't find no place where the Most High said he loved anyone but Israel. And because he would keep the oath which he has sworn unto your fathers. Now, the oath sworn unto our fathers. Everyone is not your father. If they're not of your bloodline, they're not your father. End of story. So when it speaks to the oath that was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that is the oath of a bloodline of men. And what you believe don't make you part of someone's bloodline. And that's addressing the gentleman that asked a question in the video pertaining to you and your seed when asking about to explain Galatians. Okay, that is anything pertaining to that covenant is specifically with a bloodline of people who are above everyone on the face of the earth. Now, we're sitting here. Hath Yah brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt? Know therefore that Yah thy strong one, he is the strong one, and the faithful strong one, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him. If you love him, you keep his commandments. And keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Verse 10. And repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him. He will repay him to his face. Now, the Most High will repay those that hate him. He will repay them to their face. He will not be slack in doing so. He will repay you to your face for your disobedience and for you walking contrary to his law. If he's going to repay you to your face, it lets you know clearly that when he does this and he puts this affliction upon you, you will be alive. A dead man feels no pain. So it's not like you're going to die and then you're going to be put up for judgment. You don't bring a dead man in a courtroom. Okay, when you face judgment, you're alive. Those afflictions, those whippings, those stripes, that is the Most High repaying you to your face. So when you see your sons shot down, you're discriminated against. Okay, you're marginalized. All the hardships and the sufferings that you see, it is the Most High repaying us to our face. We are to see it. We are to feel it. We are to experience it. That way we know that it's him who is doing it because he said that he would. It is nothing but a confirmation of his word. Verse 11. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. Verse 12. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that Yah thy strong one shall keep unto thee the covenant and mercy which he swore unto thy fathers. So there's a stipulation here. This covenant that the Most High has made with our fathers, the Most High will hold that. He will keep that. He cannot break that. However, it's not going to be kept if we don't keep our end of the bargain. Okay? And as we continue to walk contrary, he's going to just continue to kill us off until there's a remnant of us that remain that will indeed keep his statutes, laws, and his judgments and his precepts. Okay? So This has two sides. An agreement has two sides, and both parties must adhere to that agreement. We are failing on our end, and that is why we're seeing and feeling these stripes in the many nations in which we have been scattered. Verse 13, and he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb and the fruit of thy land, thy corn, thy wine, and thine oil, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. So if we were to keep all these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts as we were commanded at the first, our women will not be barren. They will be fruitful and they will multiply. Our flocks will multiply. We will have the rains that will come to that will fall upon the earth, that will cause our crops to grow, and the harvest will be plentiful, etc. Failure to follow these laws will be the contrary to all that I have just mentioned. Verse 14, thou shalt be blessed above all people. Once again, the house of Israel is a bloodline of people separated from every other nation. They are special above all people and will be blessed above all people. The reason why we are cursed and we are below all people is because we have walked contrary to this law. So in Galatians, when you read that nonsense, no Jew, no Greek, etc., 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 it is nonsense. We are not all the same. And we're not all the same because of what we believe. This is very simple. So the house of Israel are special above everyone, and we will be blessed above everyone, as we are right now cursed more than anyone else because we walk contrary to this law. Now, thou shalt be blessed, verse 14, thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you or among your cattle. We will be fruitful. Now, think of the many nations right now where you have the fertility drugs, where you may find a woman who couldn't have a child. They'll artificially inseminate semen into her, and what will happen is she will have a child and have 8 and 9 children all at once. Now, this is not a natural or a normal thing. So these drugs that's being made for fertility, I want you to understand that this is not for our people. Our people are not having these fertility problems. All right. Now, let's go down to verse 15. And Yah will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which thou knowest, upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. So, once again, you are reading the same thing that you will read in Deuteronomy chapter 30. If we return unto the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, what he will do, he will take all the curses of Egypt and all the plagues that he's put upon us. He will remove it from us and put it upon our enemies, thus restoring us back to our rightful place, the head of all people, the head of all nations. So we're not all the same, irregardless of what they try to teach you in the New Testament. Besides that, you should be smart enough to look around you and clearly see that you're not treated like anyone else. So how could you believe that nonsense? Now, verse 16, and thou shalt consume all the people which Yah thy strong one shall deliver thee. Thine eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. So here we are in the midst of the many nations, serving the gods of the people who have taken us captive and scattered us to the four corners of the earth. Now keep in mind, the Most High has done this, and he has allowed and strengthened our enemies against us, and they have scattered us into the many lands where they dwell. And what we have done, we have taken a hold of their ways and their customs. We have lost our minds and married their daughters, and we have given our daughters unto their sons. And in doing all of these things, it has been a snare unto us. Verse 17, if thou shalt say in thine heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? Verse 18, thou shalt not be afraid of them. but shalt well remember that Yah thy strong one, what Yah thy strong one did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt. So we are in these lands, we're outnumbered and we're outgunned. What a reminder to us should be is that we were outnumbered and outgunned, and we were captives in the land of Mizraim, Egypt. Yet the Most High delivered us with a strong hand. So despite our position, should we return to his laws, he will deliver us out of this situation that seems insurmountable to us at the present time. Okay? Verse 19. The great temptations which thine eyes saw, and the signs, and the wonders, and the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm, whereby Yah thy strong one, excuse me, brought thee out. So shall Yah thy strong one do unto all the people of whom thou art afraid. So we will see this reversal of roles as we return back onto the Most High's laws. It is specifically laid out in Deuteronomy chapter 30. Once we return back onto these laws, what he will do. So now our people are fearful of the police. We're fearful of being trapped, fearful of being snared, fearful of being framed, shot, incarcerated without due process, etc. All of these things are happening to us. But as we return back onto the Most High's laws, he will strengthen us against our enemies. And instead of us being afraid of them, they will be afraid of us, like all the nations were in the days of old. Now, verse 20. Moreover, Yah thy strong one will send the hornets among them, until they that are left and hide themselves from thee be destroyed. Thou shalt not be affrighted at them, for Yah thy strong was among you, a mighty and strong and terrible strong one. So we're not to be afraid of anyone, especially if we know we're walking in lockstep with the Most High's law. We are not to be afraid of anyone. Okay? Verse 22. And Yah thy strong will put out those nations before thee by little and little. Thou mayest not consume them all at once, lest the beast of the field increase upon thee. Verse 23. But Yah thy strong one shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction until they be destroyed. Verse 24. And he shall deliver their kings into thine hand, and thou shalt destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before thee until thou have destroyed them. Once again, if we're walking within the law, statute, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, no one will be able to come against you and win. Verse 25. The graven images of their gods, idols, shall ye burn with fire. We are to burn them. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them. So if you have a cross of JC strung out on it and there's gold, and you bought it way back in the day and you paid $12,000 for it or $1,200 for it, and now you've come into the truth and the understanding of the Most High's law, and you understand clearly that that's an idol, a graven image and an accursed thing. Don't worry about those $1,200. Chuck that thing aside and burn it. Okay, so do not have the desire for the gold that is upon that graven image. Okay, let me reread verse 25. The graven image of their gods shall ye burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them. So don't mind what you pay for it. Burn it. Nor take it unto thee. Don't bring it in your house, lest thou be snared therein. For it is an abomination unto Yah thy strong one. So the idol of JC and any other idol and any other graven thing that you may have in your house, image, etc., these are accursed things. It is a snare unto you, and you are to rid yourselves of it. Verse 26. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house. Don't bring these idols, this idolatry, these graven images in your house. Some of you have a picture of JC in there, a statue of him or something crazy. Get it out your house. Lest thou be a cursed thing like it, but thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. I hope you got that. Okay, so we were instructed In all of Deuteronomy chapter 7, number 1, we were not to give our sons to the daughters of strangers. We were not to give our daughters to the sons of strangers. Okay? This thing is a grave sin. And as we continue with this lesson, you will see clearly that it is. Now, we have finished with Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's go over to Exodus chapter 34. Exodus chapter 34, and we will read verse 14. Verse 14 reads, Exodus chapter 34, we'll read verse 16, verse 16. And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a-whoring after their gods. So we are instructed here clearly that what we're not to do, we're not to allow our sons to marry strangers and our daughters to marry strangers. Because if this were to happen, what indeed happens then is the Most High becomes jealous, and our seed line start following after the gods of their spouses. And this is not to be done. Okay, so we're not to do this. Now, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 15. Deuteronomy chapter 6. And we'll read verse 15. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 15 reads, For Yah thy strong one is a jealous strong one among you. That's verse 15. Is a jealous strong one among you. Lest the anger of Yah thy strong one be kindled against thee and destroy thee from off the face of the earth. Verse 16. Ye shall not tempt Yah thy strong one, as ye tempted him in Massah. So, we understand clearly here in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 15, that we are not to at all cause the Most High to come to anger because of the things that we're doing, i.e. walking after the idols of the many nations and marrying the sons and the daughters of the many nations. Okay, so in verse 15 here, it makes clear to us that we will be destroyed off the face of the earth. So we are not to do anything that is contradictory to the Most High's word. Now let's go to Numbers. Numbers chapter 36. Numbers chapter 36. And we will read verse 6 through verse 9. And we'll also read verse 13. So Numbers chapter 6. And we will read Numbers chapter 36, we will read verse 6 through 9 and verse 13.